The elevator doors open and Ace walks out first. Chin up, tie straight, shoulders set at exactly the angle of a man who has never once wondered whether he belongs in the building. He always walks out first. What you probably don't know is that he timed it. He has a private rule about where to stand inside the elevator, just left of center, so that when the doors part, he is already a half step ahead of everyone else. It looks like instinct. It is choreography. If you've ever walked into a room and decided in the first 2 seconds exactly who you were going to be in it, you already know Ace a little. Ace is the thumb. Golden brown capsule head, black suit, a red tie knotted the same way every single morning. He is the most confident person in every room he enters, and that is not an accident of personality. He arranged it. He has spent years building a version of himself so steady that nobody has ever thought to check whether the steadiness goes all the way down. It doesn't, but we'll get to that. Here is the first thing worth slowing down for, because Ace would want us to be precise about it. Confidence is not the same as certainty. They look identical from the outside, which is the whole reason the confusion is so useful. Certainty is knowing the answer. Confidence is being comfortable while you find it. Most people assume the confident person has more of the first one. Usually, they've just gotten very good at the second. Ace is excellent at the second. He has never once let the gap between them show. That's the part that took years. So let's be careful here the way he is. Ace doesn't walk around feeling sure. Ace walks around making sure nobody can tell that he isn't. There is a difference between those two things, and the entire architecture of his life is built in that difference. Now there's a name for the feeling Ace is managing, and it's one you've almost certainly heard, usually attached to interns and beginners and people on their first day. Impostor syndrome, the quiet conviction that you don't actually deserve to be where you are, that your competence is a trick you've pulled, and that any moment now someone is going to notice. Here's what nobody tells you about it. It doesn't go away as you climb. For people like Ace, it gets worse. You'd think seniority would fix it. More wins, more proof, more years of not getting caught. But it runs the other way. The higher you go, the more people are looking, the more is riding on you being right, and the smaller the space becomes for not knowing something. A junior employee is allowed to ask. A leader in his own mind is not. So the people who look the most in control are very often the ones working the hardest to maintain the illusion of it. The confidence you're admiring isn't the absence of doubt. It's doubt fully employed, doing 40 hours a week of overtime in a nice suit. Ace runs that math every day, and the math is exhausting. Watch him in a meeting. Someone asks a question he doesn't immediately know the answer to. To everyone in the room, nothing happens. He simply answers. But inside, in the half second before he speaks, an entire engine spins up. Buy time without looking like you're buying time. Reframe the question so the part you know becomes the important part. Project the answer with a flatness that says, of course, obviously, who wouldn't know this? Land it. Hold the face. Breathe out only on the inside. Never let them see you reach for it. He does this dozens of times a day, and he is so good at it that you would never guess it's happening. And that is exactly the problem, because nobody helps a person who never looks like he needs it. Here is something worth noticing about how this plays out in a room. Everyone else is managing their own version of the same anxiety, quietly wondering if they're the only one who doesn't quite follow, if they're the only one who's guessing. And because Ace looks certain, they assume the certainty is real, so they don't ask either. The room fills up with people performing understanding at each other, and nobody says the thing that would actually move the work forward. Ace's performance doesn't just cost him. It sets the temperature for everyone around him. Now here is the twist, and it's quieter than you'd expect, because Ace's whole life is built to keep it quiet. Ace's leadership was never really about being the best. He'd let you believe it was. That's part of the performance. But the engine underneath wasn't a drive to win. It was a drive to never be caught not knowing. Those sound similar. They are not the same animal at all. Wanting to be the best makes you curious. You poke at the things you don't understand, because understanding them makes you better. Wanting to never be caught makes you defend it. You steer carefully around the things you don't understand, because getting near them is where the risk lives. So Ace, the most capable-looking person in the office, has quietly spent years avoiding the exact situations that might have taught him the most. Not out of laziness, out of a survival instinct dressed up as standards. The performance of confidence started as a skill. Somewhere along the line it became the cage, and it shows up in ways nobody names. He won't take on the project where he'd have to learn something new in front of other people. He won't ask the question that reveals the gap. He won't sit in the meeting as the least experienced person in the room, because being the least experienced person requires a kind of openness that his whole system is designed to prevent. So he stays in rooms where he's safe, and he gets very good at the rooms he's already in. And the rooms he hasn't entered yet stay closed. And the bill for that comes due in a currency you can't see on any spreadsheet. Every ounce of attention spent managing the impression is an ounce not spent on the actual work. Every meeting is 2 meetings, the real one, and the one where he watches himself have the real one. It's a tax on everything. It never shows up on the invoice, and it never stops being charged. This is the difference between authority that's earned and authority that's performed. Earned authority can afford to say, I don't know, let me find out, because it isn't holding up the whole ceiling by itself. Performed authority can't. One honest I'm not sure, and in Ace's mind, the entire structure comes down. So he never says it, and the structure stays up, and he stays exhausted holding it. Now here's the part where I should tell you something, gently, the way you'd want to be told. You've met Ace, the person in your office whose confidence seems load-bearing, the one who never seems rattled, the one you slightly resent for having it so together. But it's more than that. You've probably been Ace too, in at least one room, at least once. The meeting where you nodded along to a term you didn't know and resolved to look it up later. The moment someone assumed you understood and you decided it was easier to let them. The day you answered a question you weren't sure of with a confidence you didn't feel, because the confidence was the only thing keeping the room calm. And here's the version of it that's harder to admit. The presentation you gave with total authority on a topic you'd only half read the night before. The time someone asked for your recommendation, and you gave one firmly, without mentioning the 3 things you hadn't considered. The habit of speaking in declaratives when the honest answer is a question. These are not character flaws. They are adaptive behaviors. They are what you do when the cost of uncertainty feels higher than the cost of being wrong. That's the Ace operating system. The one that confuses being unsure with being unsafe. The one that decided, a long time ago, that not knowing and not belonging were the same sentence. They aren't, but try telling that to a nervous system at 6 in the evening on a Sunday. There's a detail here that Ace would never admit, and it's the one that matters most. In a room full of people who all bought the performance completely, there was one who didn't. The smallest of the 5. The quietest one, holding a coffee he never drinks. The one nobody watches because he's too busy watching everyone else. Pip is the only person in the office who has seen the half-second, the flicker before the answer. The way Ace's hand finds the knot of his tie when a question lands wrong. Pip noticed because Pip knows the feeling from the inside. And you can only spot in others the thing you're already carrying yourself. He never said anything. You don't with Ace, but he saw it. And being seen, even silently, even by the quietest one in the room, is the one variable Ace's whole system was never built to handle. Because the performance only works when the audience believes it completely. One person who sees through it doesn't end the show, but it changes the show in a way that's hard to explain. It means somewhere in at least one mind, the version of you that holds it all together, and the version of you that's barely holding on exist at the same time. Pip carries both versions of Ace with him now. Ace doesn't know that, but something in him has sensed it. So let's go back to where we started, because nothing dramatic happens here. That's the point. The day ends. The meeting empties out. Ace walks back toward his desk the way he walked out of the elevator. Chin up, tie straight, the show running clean. And then for 1 second, nobody is watching. And his posture drops, just slightly. The shoulders come down half an inch. The chin lowers. The face, for one unguarded moment, simply stops performing. And what's underneath it isn't impressive or steady or sure. It's just tired. The way you're tired after a long day of being someone. He stays there for a moment in that dropped posture. Not long, just long enough for the weight of it to be real. Long enough for the body to remember what it costs, before it is asked to forget again. Then the phone rings, and before he even knows he's doing it, the chin lifts. The shoulders square. The tie is already straight. The voice that answers is the calm, certain, in-control voice you have always known. The one that has never once let you see it reach. The show continues. It always does. The only question, the one Ace has never quite let himself ask, is the same one waiting for you. The next time you walk out of an elevator, first, chin up, hoping nobody checks how far down the steadiness goes. Who exactly are you holding all of this up for? And what would happen really if you let your shoulders down in a room where someone could finally